Hello, everybody, and welcome to Whispers Radio here on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog, and UPRN, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. It is 6:00 p.m.
6:13-ish.
And some weather outside.
Probably rain.
Let me see. I'm going to go ahead and forecast it. It's going to be either really hot or it's really wet.
Yes.
So enjoy that. I'm Jordan Cline here with Rachel Todd and the lovely Lola Miller. Welcome to Whispers Radio. This is a pre-recorded show, so if you call in, Lola's going to be behind the desk and wondering why you're calling.
Yeah, that's true.
Our guest tonight is Mr. Merrell Fankhauser. We are going to be talking about the lost continent of Mu. Merrell, are you with us?
Yes, I am, Jordan.
Now, tell us, how did you first hear about the lost continent of Mu?
Well, I was living in a suburb of Los Angeles with my rock and roll band in Woodland Hills, and I'd rented this house up in the canyon, and I was cleaning up in the log bin, and I found a 1932 edition of Colonel James Churchward's book, The Lost Continent of Mu. And we started reading this book religiously, and we got so interested in it that we decided to call our band Mu, M-U, at the time, because we didn't have a name for the band.
Oh, yeah?
And so we started studying everything about, the lost continent of Mu, and it was believed to be a civilization that existed where the Hawaiian Islands now are, and when the ocean was clean into the deserts of California at that point. And noticeably, very interesting, is that a lot of South and North American Indian tribes claim to have come from a now sunken civilization in the South Pacific.
Really?
Yeah. And the great explorer Thor Heyerdahl that wrote the book Kon-Tiki that proved that Polynesians came all the way to South America in rafts and things that they built. He discovered lots of writings in the temples and the ruins in Peru and different places down there that talked about this continent, and even talked about a Queen Mu who came there and taught a lot of the Indians their knowledge that they had of rock masonry and all kinds of stuff. It's really an interesting theory.
Really?
Yeah.
Now you're still into music.
Yeah.
How many years later would you say?
How many years later from that?
Since you first...
that was in 1969, Jordan, when I first found out about the band, about the Lost Continent, Mu, yeah. And we decided to call the band Mu, and then we had 2 albums come out on United Artists after that, and we decided to move to the island of Maui because it was supposedly one of the mountain peaks of the Lost Continent.
Wow. Now, if I read the insert of your CD correctly, you believe that all the Hawaiian Islands are the tops of the mountains?
Well, that's what they say, and even though there's a new island being formed off of the big island of Hawaii right now that's coming to the surface, it's all part of the plate that it sits on. So, some people say, I don't think that's possible, but then other geologists say, yeah, it's very possible that the plate, and the ring of fire that goes all the way up the coast of California where the San Andreas Fault is, that I'm practically sitting on right now as we speak, it's very active, and then at different changes in the earth, it's very possible that could have been. And the interesting thing is when I moved to Maui in 1973, I was really on a quest to get to the bottom of this, and I found a lot of old Hawaiian people that still believed in it, and I found an old book that was written by a Hawaiian kahuna about the people of Mu and how they were living on the islands when the Hawaiians first got there.
Okay, so this isn't something new. This is something that has been around. It's just not well known.
Exactly. Like Colonel Churchward from England, discovered all of these writings and stuff, and Mayan writings, clear back in probably 1929 or 30, and then his first book came out in 32, and now there's been several editions of it clear up to, just a few years ago that have been published again.
Wow.
So the Easter, excuse me, I'm dealing with a sore throat tonight. Easter Island, then that would have been, say, an island off of the continent?
It probably could have been part of the continent. There's maps, if you look at Colonel Churchward's book, and you can find this book in a lot of bookstores, The Lost Continent of Mu. There's a map in there, and it shows the California coastline being smaller than it is now, and it shows that one tip of Mu did go down to Easter Island.
Yeah, I'm looking at one now. It looks like Baja is smaller.
Yes.
And it would almost have butted right up to New Zealand. It looks
very
like.
close. Very close. And the interesting thing is you can go here into the deserts in California and find fossilized starfish and all kinds of sea creatures and stuff. So we know that this area of California was underwater at one time.
Really?
Yeah. And going on with my story, when I moved to Maui in 1973, I started talking to all of these elder Hawaiian people that would talk about this. Some of them don't want to talk about it, like it's taboo, Yeah, but for some reason they trusted me, and they would talk to me about this, and I found out about these ruins that were in the East Maui rainforest off of the Hana Highway that leads 45 miles out into the jungle to the little village of Hana, and I found these ruins, and I went down there with a camera, and there were 4 pillars still standing that looked very much like Mayan Indian structures, and under the pillars there was a stone-cut base and like a sidewalk, and the jungle was completely overgrown over it. It looked like something out of an Indiana Jones movie. When I saw the first Indiana Jones movie, I went, I've already done this. And there was a little waterfall trickling down in between these 4 pillars, and I got goosebumps, went, wow. And it was kind of dark in the jungle there, and I tried to measure the pillars, and they seemed to be about 30 feet tall, and they looked like hexagonal-shaped rods that were put together when I climbed up on top, and I could see the top of them, but there was no mortar or cement or anything visible holding them together. And then I went down on the floor of this base, and I noticed there was like a sidewalk structure going off into the ocean. And it was completely covered over with this how bush, which is really like giant hibiscus, and it grows up to 80, 90 feet tall. So I started crawling on my hands and knees, and I got down to the last part of it, and it went right off into the ocean, and I could see it continuing in the ocean with the lava flow going over it. And that last lava flow was probably around 1,000 years ago in that area.
Wow.
So German television came over there because they were very interested in this, and they filmed it. And, everybody was saying, it's got to be part of the lost continent of Mu. And supposedly some German scientists carbon dated it to be possibly 9 to 10,000 years old.
That's astounding. I wish I had known about this when I was in Hawaii, because I would have.
Yeah.
We were in Maui for a couple of days, and
I have pictures of that. If you go to my website, merrellfankhauser.com, there's pictures of those ruins there, and then also Haleakala Crater, which is 10,500 feet tall on the top of Maui. I hiked through that a lot, and one time I was hiking through with some other musicians, and it was at a certain part of the afternoon, and there's a lava flow in there in the bottom of that crater that's all, just dry lava, and it's about 1,000 years old, that last lava flow. Well, we all noticed what looked like a pyramid in the middle of this dried lava flow. Well, the rangers completely prohibit you from getting off of the trail because it's very dangerous. There's even a bottomless pit that a couple of hippies jumped into in the 70s, and they were never found again. And anyhow, I walked out this trail, and it looked like the pyramid that we saw. And the weird thing about it, your eyes play tricks on you out there. There's no depth perception. You can't tell how far away something is. And it looked like it was, maybe, a couple city blocks away, but it was actually a few miles away. So I started hiking to this thing, and it was very dangerous because the lava was real sharp, and it was cutting up my shoes and my pants and everything, and I had to jump a couple of big chasms that, if I fell in there, who knows, if I would even come out and be able to get out or whatever.
You may have ended up in Japan.
Well, they say that the bottomless pit in Haleakala Crater is actually a vent for the volcano on the Big Island of Hawaii. And there was even legends that kahunas would go through this lava tube and come out on the Big Island under the ocean, but who knows. So anyhow, I got to this pyramid, and it definitely looked like a capstone for the top of a larger pyramid with polished sides, and I estimated it to be about 30 feet tall. And when I tried to climb up on the top of it, and I got such intense vertigo and just almost out of breath and sick feeling that I had to get off of it, sit back down, and I waited for a while, and finally that feeling went away. And I took a picture of that, and it ended up in the Maui News, and it's in magazines all over the world, even in Europe.
Wow.
So somebody and something was there before the Hawaiians, and the Parks Department later on let the National Geographic Society go up there and bore a hole in the side of this pyramid, and it's weird. Nobody had ever even mentioned that this thing was there. And they concluded, and it was just a tiny little footnote in the newspaper. To me, it would be quite a discovery, but they made this little footnote saying, geologist feels that the pyramid in the Haleakala Crater is just a capstone to a much larger pyramid that's now submerged under the lava.
That's fair. I had never heard of any of this.
Yeah. Then on the other side of Maui, if you go past Kihei and you go towards the Big Island and you're going towards McKenna Beach, and that's where the road ends there, and there's a hotel. Well, it turns into a gravel road, and then it stops at a gravel parking lot, and there's some trails, and you can't go any further on a car. I took a whole expedition and a film crew out there because there's a whole ruined city out there. And there's a stone roadway with rock walls going for 17 miles through this lava field. And the road will stop, and there'll be a big, huge mountain of lava you got to climb over. You get over that, then you see the road starting again. Well, what we started noticing as we were going along to our left, looking up the mountainside, we saw all of these, what was left of houses and buildings, and it was stonework. It wasn't, if you're over there and you notice all the Hawaiian stuff, it's more like volcanic boulders they've piled up, and then they build thatched roofs on them. Well, this wasn't anything like that. This was cut stone, and you'd see somebody's foundation and then the steps to the what would maybe be the front door, and then the whole thing would be partially covered over by this lava. And then about 7.5 miles out, up on a hill, there's this huge building that's as big as a department store. And the lava didn't touch that. It's out of the lava field. And it's another one of those things, if you go there, say at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you won't be able to see it because it just kind of blends into the hill. And we went up there, and the cameraman was just exhausted. This was a 2-day expedition, and he couldn't carry the camera up this hill, but some of us went up there. And over in the corner of this building, the walls were about 4 feet thick and about 10 feet high, and there was no roof left on it. Over in the corner, there was a hole, and somebody had tied some Romex electrical cable around this pillar going down into this hole with this rickety old wooden ladder. And you could see where people had made torches and stuff. There was burnt pieces of wood and fiber there. So we managed to make a torch also. We didn't have any flashlights or anything. So we went down into this thing, and there was a room very much like what you'd see in Egypt or something, with this stone masonry, polished stone, and in the corners were 2 pillars with like lion's paws carved out of them. And I dubbed the place Lost City Hall. And there's a lot of people that know about it. Hawaiian fishermen know about it. A lot of surfers knew about it. And the way I first heard about it was from John Severson, who started Surfer Magazine. And he went out there with a bunch of, archaeology-minded surfers and found the place. And we were all amazed, but I was really disappointed because we didn't get that particular structure on film, but we did get a bunch of the smaller, like, buildings along that highway leading to it. And the other interesting point is, in that same area, they found a Viking axe head. So the Vikings had even been there, and that axe head is in the Bishop Museum on Oahu in Honolulu.
Wow. That's pretty neat.
This is so fascinating. I've got like the map of Maui up as with the terrain part. You know?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Hey, I don't know how in the world you ever managed to get through some of this stuff. I just know just driving through the jungle areas on the the leeward side.
Yeah.
That was daunting just driving through it.
Well, that's where I lived. I lived on the road to Hana in my self-built house.
I saw a picture that had Jungle Shack on it.
Yeah, by the waterfall and the stream, and that's where I wrote most of the songs that are on Return to Moo that Gonzo Multimedia in UK has just put out with the documentary DVD. If you look at that DVD, you'll see these ruins that I'm talking about.
I'm gonna have to take it home.
Well,
and
we do
watch
have the CD in the CD player. Lola, are we able to pick the tracks on that?
Okay.
We're gonna
My
work on
CD
this.
player is like fritzing out on me.
Oh, no.
It's skitzing. I can't read the where it tells the track number. So Jordan has chosen track number 3, On Our Way to Hana.
That's a good one.
Okay, I'm hoping that this is what it is.
Okay.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, this is On Our Way to Hana.
It was a clear and blustery day down by the ocean. 2 silver saucers appeared on the horizon. Me and my friends, we stared in amazement. Could this be the place we've seen in our dreams? We were on our way to Hana, passing by Wailua Bay. The sky was full of flowers, the people smiled and waved.
Okay, everybody, you're listening to Whispers Radio here on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog. We'll be right back after this short break.
Step right in.
AM 1600 WKKX, humping the leg of talk radio since 2004. Give us a call and tell us what you're thinking. Locally, 304-214-1600. Out of the area, toll free, 866-514-1600.
Welcome back. Aloha, everybody. Welcome back to Whispers Radio here on AM 1600 WKKX, the Valley's Watchdog, and UPRN, the UFO Paranormal Radio Network. I'm Jordan Cline here with Rachel Todd and Lola Miller, and our guest tonight, Mr. Merrell Fankhauser, who is sharing a pretty awesome story about the lost continent of Mu and sharing his music with us on his new album, Return to Mu. Merrell, you still with us?
I'm still there. I don't know if you guys knew, but your mics were open during the commercial.
Yeah, well, how we're recording it, like you hear everything we talk about.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
But it's cool. I got to edit it all out for when it goes over the network anyway. So
Right.
it's all good.
I don't have much time left, Jordan, because I have to go to another appointment.
Okay.
So I've got maybe another 10 minutes at the most.
Oh, we're fine. We're good.
Okay.
I do want to say you are, with your music history, you were in, several surf bands. The Impacts
Yes.
was one. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's the first band actually I was playing with. Actually, I played with the band The Rebels that had the song Comanche later on in Pulp Fiction, but I played with the Rebels first in about 1961. Then in 62, I joined the Impacts, and we played at the Pismo Beach Rose Garden Ballroom, and we were discovered there by Delphi Records, and they put out our Wipeout album by the Impacts in 1962, and it became a pretty big hit.
Yeah.
Yes, it did. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And then from there, you've many different albums. I'm going through kind of your biography, and it's just album after album after album,
Yeah, I thought there was about 40, Jordan, and then some guy from Italy says, well, wait a minute, I have 51 of Merrell Fankhauser's albums. But there's a lot of foreign releases, and compilations but I think there's close to 40 albums now. I after the surf music sort of went away and the Beatles came along, everybody went into
Beatlemania.
And a different style of music, which I changed into also, and I had a band called Merrell and the Exiles, which we had some singles out. Then we had pretty good success in 1968 with a band called Merrell Fankhauser and HMS Bounty, and that album still gets a lot of play on oldies stations.
Now, you were also recently nominated for a Grammy, weren't you?
Yeah, I was nominated for a Grammy by one of the songs I did with Merrell and the Exiles in 1967 called Tomorrow's Girl, and I was lucky that Warner Rhino picked that song to be in this big CD set of music that they put out that was from 1965 to 68. It had everybody that you could think of from that era, the Mamas and Papas, the Buffalo Springfield, the Byrds, the Doors.
Wow.
And because my song ended up in that set, and that set got nominated this year, well, it was nominated last year, and the Grammys were February 13th, that really caused a lot of interest in all of my older work, and I've been making record deals like mad with all sorts of different labels, because of that. And even though we didn't win, it was in the box set was called Where the Action Is, L.A. Nuggets, 1965 to 1968. And it was in the historical album category, but we got beat by this group called the Beatles. And they just decided, to put out a bunch of outtakes and things by the Beatles at the same time. But even though we lost, it turned out good for me because I've signed 6 more record deals. And if you guys email me, give me your address, I'll make sure you get all these new releases as they come out.
Wow, awesome. That'd be great.
Yeah, so just email me. You can email me through merrellfankhauser.com. My email is merrell@merrellfankhauser.com.
Okay.
That's pretty neat. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it is. 'Cause
sure.
Listening to that music, and I noticed on your website, it's like psychedelic, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness, this is like a flashback to my past.
Yeah.
The parts that I actually do remember,
Yeah, that's right. I once interviewed Mars Bonfire that wrote the big hit for Steppenwolf, Born to Be Wild.
Really?
And he had a solo album out, but I asked him, Mars, what was the title of the album? And he goes, I can't remember. He couldn't remember the title of his own album, True to the 60s.
Well, that was quite the time, and I'm told I had a really good time, so,
Well, that's good.
I'm
glad you're still here to talk about it.
Seriously, yes, I know.
Yeah.
I'm sure we both kind of took a few risks back in those days.
Yep, it was an adventurous time.
Yes, it was.
Boy, I've got some stories, too.
Yeah. But, the song you played, On Our Way to Hana, that was kind of inspired when I first moved over there because we were driving on our way to Hana and we saw these 2 glinting silver discs in the sunlight, flying along the coast, and poof, they just disappeared. And I wrote that was the first song I wrote about UFOs, and then I started reading things in old Hawaiian legends, and they used to see them, and they said they'd see them flying out of the crater and diving into the ocean.
Really?
And they called them the flying pearly shells. So that was something that was going on for quite a while, I guess, you know.
So do you think that, how do I want to say this? You know how there's a lot of history people, you know, talking about the ancient aliens that, you know, helped build Stonehenge and the Great Pyramids. Do you think that they were also involved in Mu?
It seems like, you know, from what I've learned and what I've studied for all these years now, is that there had to be some highly, you know, developed mind that did a lot of this stuff, because the rest of the people were building like caveman structures.
Yeah.
And then here all of a sudden you find these refined things that our cranes and things can't even move or lift now. So, boy, it really is a interesting and puzzling mystery how all of these things were built.
Well, you know, you've always heard about the lost continent of Atlantis, and you know the way that had something been there would have explained the cross culture, and not only that, but the cross pollination of two continents.
Exactly, and you know that's the thing about Mu. Mu, even though Colonel Churchward sort of discovered it in 1932. You never heard much about Mu, or Lemuria was the other name for it. All you heard about was Atlantis.
Yeah. Well, I pulled another map up, and it would make if you had a landmass right there in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, it would have pushed the ocean edges, the shores, up on the other continents very far. And then once that landmass sunk or whatever happened to
the water would go back in.
Yeah.
That's exactly right, and that's what I said. You know, they know that where Las Vegas is now, that was all under the ocean at one time.
Wow.
Well, and when you look at, I've been in like the Valley of Fire and places like that, you know there had to have been water in there because, first of all, the way that it's so eroded, but second, where the hieroglyphs are, it's impossible to get there unless you were, on water in a boat. It's just because they are up so high. It's just amazing. I don't know how Indians could have gotten them up there unless it was filled with water and they were in a craft.
Right. Years ago, Charlton Heston did a documentary about the Egyptian pyramids, and he had a lot of geologists and people there looking at it, and they say that the marks on the Great Pyramid are water, that they feel that at some point the Great Pyramid was even underwater, and that the face of the Sphinx was different, that it was remade later on.
Really?
Yeah. So I found that very interesting too.
Now, I think it's interesting as well, speaking of, the alien involvement in both, that, inside that crater, you found a pyramid as well.
Yeah.
So far away.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. I'm going to have to really start digging into this because I'd never heard of it before.
Yeah. It seems like all of these structures, all over the planet are somehow linked, and there's so many similarities in the way that they're built also.
Yeah, I mean, how could pyramids, spring up in Egypt and in South America and now in Hawaii?
Yeah.
And I'm sure there probably are ones in undiscovered places in, say, China or, the Russians somewhere.
Yeah.
But,
well, you know what? I hate to cut this short, but I've got to run.
Well, thank you so much for being
been great
on with us,
talking
Merrell.
to
Yeah,
you guys.
definitely.
And email me and send me your address, and I'll get you some other interesting releases.
Great.
That's
And maybe
wonderful.
we'll talk again.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Hey, Merrell, thank you very much for this information, because we're probably going to be discussing it for the next few minutes.
All right, Jordan.
Very appreciative.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. See you, Merrell.
Aloha.
Aloha. Is that hello or goodbye, or is that both?
Both.
A little bit of both. I mean, don't laugh at me. I don't know. I think it's interesting, like the way, like I said, UFOs being, involved, especially in that or the crater, and them finding a pyramid kind of backs up what everybody else says about the UFOs, or, the aliens making the pyramids over in Egypt.
I find the whole thing fascinating. This is just, I am going to have to get some of these books. Because I think somewhere the Lemuria, I've heard that phrase, that word.
Really?
Yeah, I think. Maybe when I was in Hawaii. I don't, we did so much like sightseeing, touristy kind of stuff. And there are places I was looking at, like particularly the map of Maui, that are called Mu, have Mu in the name.
Really?
Yeah.
So it must be like a big part of the culture there.
Well, yeah, if it's a local legend. And when you look at this at one of the maps.
Now, what kind of maps are you looking at? Are you Googling Mu or are you just Hawaii?
Mu.
Okay.
It does. The drawing that somebody made, Easter Island is at the very tip of what would have been this continent. Where is that one map at? But it encompasses all those places. Hawaii, oh, shoot. Well, anyway, let me see. Oh, here it is. Samoa, the Marquesas, Easter Island, Togatasu, Fiji. I mean, this whole area. Hawaii is clear up to would have been to the north of this continent. But yeah, it's huge, the area he felt. It's very close to New Zealand and Australia, Japan. In fact,
it was a pretty large landmass.
Oh, it's huge. Absolutely huge. It would have taken up the whole center of the Pacific Ocean.
Okay, so, I mean, for people that believe, like, that Atlantis sunk, like, what would cause a continent to sink? I mean,
The shifting of the plates.
But, I mean, isn't it all connected? I don't know. Like, because you have the core, and then you have all the land masses coming out of it. I mean, islands are kind of in the middle. Like, we're just not floating, though.
Sit on top of one another. And if the plates would shift enough, it could have been a volcanic thing that destroyed it. I don't know.
I don't know either, Lola.
No, it's not like we're floating on it.
But that's what I'm saying. It's not like...
We are actually sitting like on a mountaintop. That's what a continent is just a rise in the landmass.
Because that's my thought on it. A lot of people are like, oh, yeah, that island or that continent sunk. That island sunk. It's like, well, islands don't just float. It's not like a glacier.
Oh, yeah, I see what you're saying. Well, I don't know. Maybe the tectonic plates shifted enough that it broke apart. I don't know.
I like how you're talking all smart, though.
That's smart. I'm like trying to dig these words out.
I couldn't have pulled tectonic plate out of my butt for nothing.
All right, Jordan, it's time to go home, I'm thinking.
All righty, you want to play another song before we go?
No, we're out of time, actually.
Oh, are we? Well, next week, couldn't tell you who we got, but I'm sure it's going to be a blast.
Seriously? This... Oh, yeah, okay.
What are you talking about?
No, I don't know, Jordan, I don't.
This would be because this show is airing on the 23rd.
Yes, I know that now.
Okay.
See, you gave me a compliment, and it just flustered me so much that I couldn't think.
You're welcome. Yeah.
Whoa. Okay, dokie.
All right, everybody. Lola needs a nap. So until next week, don't be afraid. Only believe.